Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with a little bit of something that's not Total War or Warhammer related content, but a short video review of Risk of Rain 2, an indie game that recently released into early access on Steam. And I really enjoyed the hell out of Risk of Rain 1 back when that was released back in, I do believe it was 2013 or whatever. It was a few years back now. And that was a 2D platforming roguelike sort of game where you just had to survive, fight your way through different levels, collect different items, power-ups. You had a whole roster of characters to choose from, so it was a lot of fun. And when I saw they were releasing a 3D platforming version, I was both a bit skeptical as well as a bit excited because I just really enjoyed the original game. Now, a lot of the things that were present in the original obviously had to change from going from a 2D to 3D game. Other things have stayed surprisingly faithful and really not changed too much from the original, which is kind of cool, seeing just what managed to carry over, what did not. Currently the game obviously in early access, so there's a lot of stuff missing or not complete, and that is supposed to be sort of fleshed out as the game's development goes along. But based on what we have already, I did want to sort of review and just put in my thoughts, show a little bit of gameplay, and discuss what we've got. So first and foremost, nice little menu here. There's not much to be said there. Much like in the original game, we do have a nice logbook, which sort of covers all the, it gives you all the information on the different items you have, but it's a little more in depth than it was back in Risk of Rain 1. If you've played that game, it gives you information on, for example, how exactly items stack, which Risk of Rain 1 didn't really do. It sort of just told you what an item does, but then you never figured out what stacks do. Logbooks, obviously some of the stuff is just funny little lore, which at the moment is incomplete or not really explained. Logs for different monsters as well, which gives you information on how they scale, how much damage they do, all that sort of stuff. At the moment, the roster of monsters is not complete, and I do believe there's supposed to be a dozen bosses once the game is fully fleshed out. Right now we only have 6, so there's only that many. I think there's only 75 out of 100 planned items right now, and we only have 6 out of 10 heroes, so definitely it's not fully fleshed out. We're obviously missing the descriptions for most stuff here. But nonetheless, logbook definitely nice in the fact that it's much more effective at conveying the information you need to know about your characters and your monsters and all that sort of stuff. There's also a nice little list of challenges here, giving you basically just a list of what you've completed and what you have not completed to unlock different items and whatnot. Besides that, they've also implemented prismatic trials, which I've not actually attempted yet. Currently, this does basically nothing. It's simply a sort of competitive mode almost. You're just trying to run through a preset game world, unlike the normal game, which does involve a fair bit of RNG and a good bit of luck as far as seeding goes and just how everything's organized. It is a preset world as far as I'm aware, so should be much more fair. Multiplayer is through Steam. Previously, it was a whole mess trying to get a multiplayer game going in Risk of Rain 1. You have to go through all sorts of hoops and hurdles to set up a connection. Now it's all done through Steam, so it's at least easier to set up a multiplayer game. Unfortunately, it can still be a bit laggy and a bit buggy, and so that would be my main critique right now, multiplayer. I think that largely comes down to Steam servers. Other games like Dawn of War 2 Retribution, which is a completely separate game, but also if you're doing multiplayer, it uses Steam, you'll often have issues with Steam servers disconnecting you and that sort of thing. So unfortunately, that's just something you got to deal with, but definitely it's much easier to get into a game with friends and just run through and do 2, 3, 4 player co-op, which is kind of cool. It was much more difficult back in the OG version. And that is basically it. Currently, there are 6 heroes. Now, you only start with the Commando, who's your very basic relatively self-explanatory character. You do get to see all of his abilities here listed out on the screen. There are 5 other heroes that you can unlock throughout the game. There's also 4 that have currently not been implemented. 3 different difficulty levels. Artifacts have not been implemented yet. This is a feature that lets you modify the game. Back in the original Risk of Rain 1, artifacts would do things like reduce everything's HP down, or reduce your hero's HP down to 10% and increase damage by 500%, or let you choose your items when they dropped, or there was a whole bunch of modifiers that would change exactly how the game behaves. So we'll definitely see what artifacts they bring. If it's going to be the same artifacts as before, if it's going to be a completely new artifact, we'll definitely see what Hapu has planned for us. But besides that, for the characters, the Commando, obviously the base starting character. There's also 5 others. Multi, which is your sort of robot character here. He has 2 different attack modes. Is currently kind of ridiculous. Definitely a pretty powerful hero in his own right. The Huntress, fire on the move. Definitely, some of these characters have carried over from the original. The Commando, the Huntress, the Engineer, as well as the Mercenary, were all characters you could get in Risk of Rain 1. I'm personally still hoping that we get at least the Sniper from Risk of Rain 1. That would be pretty cool. But we'll definitely see what they're going to give us. Otherwise, there are 2 new characters. The Artificer, who's basically a mage caster character. And as mentioned before, Multi, who's just kind of a tank. Who does boatloads of damage and is going to be pretty versatile. Engineer is basically a camps on a target. And Merc is kind of a sort of fast-paced, frenetic melee character. So all these characters can be a lot of fun. They all play fairly differently as far as I've experienced. Now, certainly some of them are more dependent on getting the right items to perform well than other in comparison to others. Some of them are, I would say, a lot more powerful than others. I would, for example, say that Multi is probably one of the most ridiculous right now. His ability to burn through bosses, especially with no upgrades really, is pretty bonkers and definitely makes him really solid. And yeah, otherwise, I definitely would say, though, that every character is playable, and there's definitely a lot of fun to be had. Regardless, though, I did want to run a little bit of a demonstration, just to show you guys what gameplay looks like. Before kind of giving my final verdict on where I think the game stands, what I think could improve, and sort of what my hopes are. So regardless, we're gonna play. Why not? We'll do Commando to get some of that basic vibe here. But good old drop pod, Space Marine landing. But there are currently, as far as I'm aware, 7 different main environments. For the first 3 levels, you've got 2 level choices. The 4th level is always the same, as far as I've experienced. And then the game loops. There's currently no end to the game, so it's basically just an endless how long can you survive. Now, this isn't necessarily a bad thing. Certainly it's not a bad thing that the game is that way at the moment. It's a good way to just make sure that everything works correctly. But it is a little unfortunate. Definitely would be cool if there was an actual proper ending. There are also 3... Currently, there are also 3 hidden levels, or sort of hidden levels, that you can either sort of get lucky and they unlock at the end of a... round. Or you've got to do certain things to unlock them. And some of these you need to get in order to unlock characters. Both the Merc and the Artificer. Both the Merc and the Artificer are unlocked through those sorts of alternate levels, which is definitely pretty cool. It's also kind of funny that your characters do change as the game progresses. You can see we've had our leg replaced with our goat hoof. We also have sticky grenades hanging from our hip there. It's definitely cool to see the aesthetic changes making an appearance. This was something that was not in Risk of Rain 1 and Risk of Rain 1, which maybe I'll do a gameplay video of sometime. It was definitely a very fun game in its own right. I actually think I do enjoy Risk of Rain 2 more than I did enjoy 1, which is something I definitely liked Risk of Rain 1 a lot. And I'm usually not the biggest fan of these sort of run and gun games, but I just had a lot of fun with it. Which is basically why I'm doing a video for it here. But Risk of Rain 1, yeah, you didn't see any changes. It was also 2D and really zoomed out. Your character was like the size of a couple pixels on the screen, basically. So there wasn't really much to see, even if they had been changing appearance, I suppose. So, but it's definitely cool to see your character change. I do like the graphics as well. Now, you might, if you do not like these sorts of cartoony aesthetics, perhaps it's not to your taste. That's okay. But I do enjoy these sorts of aesthetics. I do find it kind of nice, refreshing from more realistic or aesthetics. And definitely, it's one of those things that carried over rather nicely. Risk of Rain 1 had its very own unique sort of standout aesthetic, I would say. And I do feel like Risk of Rain 2 has largely managed to retain that. It's also definitely has its own nice aesthetic. Minimalistic, definitely, in some ways. But still very unique and very enjoyable, in my opinion. Obviously, you're free to disagree. If you think it's the most horrible thing, the way it looks, well, that's your opinion. Great. I didn't want another sticky bomb. We could have gone for the teddy bear for tough times, but I figured we might get something better if we randomed it. Most of the system of loot has basically stayed the same from the original game. There are now stationary turrets you can activate alongside the drones that you could do before, which is kind of cool. Now, is it always worth getting stationary turrets or drones or anything like that? Well, maybe not necessarily. Some of the item balance has definitely changed for the original Risk of Rain. A lot of healing items were just stupidly good back in Risk of Rain 1. In this game, I would say the healing items have kind of... a lot of them have fallen off. They're a lot weaker and a lot less useful. Other items have gotten much more powerful. Some items are just kind of decent. There's also new currency, which I actually forgot to mention. But it's these lunar shrines. Oh, we can download environmental data. That's kind of cool. We actually collected a log. Look at that. What a bunch of nerds. But there are now these lunar shrines, which you can activate with a new currency called lunar coins. This is a currency you collect in between games, and it carries over. So, for example, right now I've got 3 lunar coins. I didn't collect them in this game. I collected them in a previous game, or in previous games. And these can also be used to purchase heroes, or one of the heroes can be purchased with lunar coins, which is pretty cool. I do apologize. I'm still a little bit coffee, so I've kind of got to take some drinks here. We still haven't found the teleporter, which is a little frustrating. Oh, there it is. It's hidden behind the rock. We'll grab that in a second. I've been kind of disappointed. Our items in this game are not particularly great, which is definitely a little unfortunate. So we now have the knife stuck in our shoulder. Fall damage is a thing in this game, though you can mitigate it or avoid it by either using invulnerability. Oh, there we go, X-ray glasses. Look at me with these dope glasses over here on my boy. But invulnerability frames definitely can help a lot. A commando has an ability called a roll, combat roll, that makes him invulnerable for a little bit, which is definitely nifty. Commando's kind of a versatile all-around character. Personally, not my favorite. I definitely think I enjoy some of the other classes a good bit more. But I do, as a starter character, as an intro to the game, he's definitely not bad. Wandering Vagrant, now he's a pretty dangerous lad. Now bosses, like I said, there's currently 6 in the game. There are currently 6 bosses in the game. These bosses are of varying difficulties. Some of them are pretty darn difficult. Some of these bosses are new. There are Wandering Vagrant is a comeback from Risk of Rain 1. There's a few others that you would no doubt recognize if you've played Risk of Rain 1. There's currently... I'm not looking to spoil anything too much if you guys don't want spoilers, but there are definitely a few that made a comeback from Risk of Rain 1. I could also use some... Unfortunately, not having a healing item right now, or not having any sort of healing right now. Some pretty brutal stuff. It hurts. It hurts so bad. But, definitely I would say there's a lot more to the game than there was in one. The game kind of got much more repetitive faster, in my opinion. Given that this game is not yet complete, it feels like it's, yeah, given that the game is not yet complete, it's still in early access. The game does feel like there's a lot more to learn. There's a lot more stuff you got to be wary of or aware of than there ever really was in the original. As you can definitely see, it can get a bit frenetic at times. There are some abilities like that which will absolutely fry you if I've been standing in that, and I've had the unfortunate experience of that happening to me when I was playing previously solo. I got completely demolished by that AoE shockwave. It just completely fried me. That basically, it won't take you to 0, but it'll take you pretty darn close to 0 HP. But that's basically the first, right there. We basically managed to beat the boss. Definitely a big hitbox, a lot of enemies to fight. I'm not the most competitive player at this game or most competent. Run and gun games aren't necessarily my bread and butter. I'm definitely more of an RTS gamer. But definitely do enjoy this game. Definitely find it entertaining. I might be doing a few more gameplay videos, perhaps highlighting the other characters as well, looking to show them off. Currently, we're just going to finish charging up the portal, go on to the next level, and throw in a few final sort of notes and thoughts. So with that, we've completed the level. You can kind of see what everything looks like. Our teleporter is charged. We're going to hit the teleporter. All remaining money is drained and converted into XP. So that's kind of cool. If we don't really need any more money. And we're off to our next level. There are two variants. In this case, we went into the wetlands aspect, so you can see a little bit of what this looks like. But that is the game. That is Risk of Rain 2. All the other characters, they do play it very differently. They've got their own play styles. They've got their own ability sets. Currently, I would say the game is in a really solid spot already, given that it's only in early access. If you're looking to get it, I do believe it's currently $20. Like I said, I'll be leaving a link to the store page down below. If you get the early access version, you also get a free copy for a friend. Or if you have a friend who's willing to pay half of it, then you can basically get the game for $10, which is nice. That is what I did. I had a friend who also wanted it, so we just kind of got it. It's definitely pretty cool. The game is, as far as bugs go, the game does not seem to have too many that I've been able to notice. The only one I've seen very rarely is where you spawn on a new level and you fall through the floor. But then it immediately respawns you back where you belong without taking HP. Whereas if you normally fall, it'll give you a boatload of damage and then respawn you on the edge of a map. So that's an interesting change, or interesting bug, but not really anything game breaking. Besides that, I'd actually say the game is pretty bug free. Definitely, that is one of the nice things about it, that there doesn't seem to be too many glitches or anything of that nature. Balance wise, Some of the heroes I think could be toned down a little bit, but and most notably Multi, who just seems ridiculous. But besides that, I would say the game is in a pretty good spot. Obviously, it's not a competitive game where there's no like head-to-head or anything, so that's not too much of a concern about individual heroes being supremely balanced. But nonetheless, there are still some glaring, I would say, standouts. As far as my main critique actually of the game right now would be the fact that in some maps or in certain situations the teleporters spawn, and it wasn't really visible in this playthrough, but the spawns for teleporters can be pretty awkward and horrible. You'll often find them in a spot, or you'll often have them in a spot where it's incredibly difficult to spot them. They blend in with terrain. You might spend ages searching, and because in Risk of Rain 1, everything was much clearer. It was much easier to see because it was 2D, so you saw everything on the side. It was hard to miss. The teleporter was a big object that you really couldn't miss. Here, it's not. The teleporter is not particularly big. It's not visually great at standing out. It can often blend in with terrain, and it can make it very difficult to find sometimes. You've got no minimap, so keeping track of where you've checked everything can sometimes be a little tough. And so I would say that teleporters should be made a little more visible. If I had one critique for the devs, really, it would make teleporters more visible. Otherwise, I'm definitely excited to see what more this game has to bring. Some of the flavor text can be pretty humorous. So I definitely look forward to seeing more flavor text being implemented. I definitely look forward to seeing the logbooks fully fleshed out and filling out the lore of the game. Because that was one of the cool things in Risk of Rain 1. As you kind of progressed through the game and you played through more and more times, you kind of got into the lore and you could actually sort of learn more about the world that you're stomping through. Whereas right now it's kind of just, oh, it's silly run and gun, kill everything, which is fun in its own right, and I definitely do enjoy that. But the lack of world building is definitely felt in comparison to Risk of Rain 1. And I'm just hoping that gets implemented in well, obviously it will be, but it's something I'm really looking forward to see implemented. Besides that, looking forward to more characters, definitely hoping the sniper makes a comeback from Risk of Rain 1. Looking forward to seeing all the new bosses, all the new stages, an ending for the game. Just really excited. I wanted to show you guys the game, give you guys an idea of what it's all about. If it's a game you guys are interested in, be sure to check it out. The link's down, and the link to the Steam page will be down below. If you actually play Risk of Rain, I know most of you guys here that watch this channel follow me for Total War content and Warhammer. Probably, so perhaps not. But if you have played Risk of Rain or have your own opinions on the game or on the first one or anything of that sort, be sure to leave your comments down below and let people know what you think. If you've experienced any bugs of your own, if there's certain things you found that are cool or that you think are overpowered or nuts or whatever, be sure to put them down below. I'd love to hear your guys' opinions. Personally, I really enjoy this game. I really enjoyed the first one, and I really want to share it with you guys and let you all see what it's about. So, thank you all for watching. I do hope this wasn't too ranty. I do hope it gave you guys an idea of what the game looks like and a genuine look at what the game can be like. I'll probably be putting up a few more gameplay videos alongside the usual Warhammer footage in the upcoming days. If you guys want to see more Risk of Rain content, be sure to let me know. And as usual, I thank you all for watching. I thank you all for your support. I know I've been sick and I've been very offbeat with putting content out. So I really appreciate all your guys' patience and your support. And I'll be sure to see you all in the next one. Wyvern out.